Today I am out here in the wildflower meadows I manage on Edisto Island at the Hutchinson House. And these meadows are just an absolutely gorgeous example of a sea island wildflower meadow, or a coastal plain, low country, grassland. Now, I have really never seen another example of a wildflower meadow, or, well, a wildflower grassland, whatever you want to call it, because it's mostly not grasses in here, that is this healthy here on the sea islands. I mean, just look at this. We are standing amidst some really important nectar plants, especially for a lot of bees and butterflies. The most obvious one is this purple stuff. So this here is Agellinus fasciculata, purple false foxglove. Now, there's a lot of things called purple false foxglove, but this is the purpliest one of them. So this one is the host plant for the common buckeye butterfly. And I think I saw some adults flying around over here, but their caterpillars are just thick as rats in this meadow right now. I mean, it doesn't matter where you look. There they are. These little pointy brown things. And look at this sweat bee right here, enjoying them as well. And oh, here's a nice juicy caterpillar down in there. But back over in that thicket that you can't quite, just way over there, that little pocket of them down yonder, they are everywhere. And I'm having a bit of a crisis walking through this stuff because I'm knocking caterpillars off, I know it. Glorious breeze coming to ruin the audio. But, oh, there's some adult buckeye butterflies right there. Is he gonna land for me? Nope, there he is. Right down in there. There he is a-going. So this plant is a hemiparasitic plant. It can photosynthesize, it can produce all its own food, it can gather all its own nutrients, but it prefers to actually parasitize grasses, like this non-native Baha'i grass, Paspalum notatum, that is coming up in here. And so the Agellinus is actually a wonderful plant in my book because it is actually able to suppress these invasive grass species by sucking the nutrition out of them. That starves these native grasses of their own energy and their own nutrition, giving the Agellinus a better advantage, which then helps out all the other native plants growing in this meadow keep their foothold and not get swallowed up by this invasive hay grass. Additionally, it can parasitize native grasses as well, such as the split-beard broom sedge here, Andropogon ternaris, or any of the other blue stems coming up in here. We also have, I believe, a chalky blue stem. I can't remember the Latin. I'll put it right here. As well as maritime blue stem and just regular switchgrass. And I think we might also have the glaucous variety of the maritime blue stem, or it might actually be just glomeratus now. They split that one recently. So that's a huge component of this. Another one down here, an often overlooked and scorned plant, is porgel, which I believe is Hexacephalum teres. It used to be Diodia teres. It used to be lumped in with Virginia buttonweed, but that is an excellent nectar plant that grows on some of these barren sandy soils. This is actually a highly fertile site, which is why we have a meadow like this. But that'll grow on some of the poorest, most nutrient poor soils you can find in the coastal plain. And it's a great nectar source for many of our small butterflies. Additionally, a favorite of mine, which we have a lot of, as you can see out here, this whiter stuff, is horsemen, or spotted bee balm, which is Monarda punctata. And I just love these things. They are another one that will grow on really poor sandy soils. Wind coming again to ruin my audio here. God, just look at that meadow swaying in the breeze. Where are you gonna find something like this in the heart of the South Carolina low country, on a sea island, no less? Only a place as well protected as Edisto Island, now that the wind's dying down. So this Monarda punctata, the spotted bee balm, is a fantastic plant for our native bees as well as our native wasps and other native pollinators in the Hymenoptera order. It's also used by some of our larger butterflies, things like the cloudless sulfurs, these little yellow things you see flying everywhere, as well as I just saw a long-tailed skipper on it a minute ago. It's not the most preferred thing, but it is well used. And here is another key component of this meadow, camphor weed. Heterotheca subaxillaris. So this thing is named camphor weed because if you take the leaf and crush it up and smell it, sometimes, maybe occasionally at some sites, on some plants, it smells like camphor. Don't ask me, common names are weird sometimes. But this is kind of a middling pollen and nectar plant. But again, it's one of those ones that will grow on practically any site, no matter how poor it is. And it does really well out here. Speaking of things, here is a Gulf fritillary working that purple false foxglove for nectar. And their host plant, and these are a tropical migrant butterfly, so their primary populations are down on the Gulf Coast and in Florida. So when their populations on the Gulf Coast and in, the deep subtropics of North America swell up, they fly up here as each successive brood is born. And so this time of year, in mid-September, they are thick here in the low country. And their host plant is purple passion flower, this stuff. And we're past the time when this stuff is blooming for the most part, so I'm not going to be able to show you any flowers. If I get lucky, I might be able to show you a fruit if I find one. Looks like a more mature stem over there. But this is their host plant, and really absolutely gorgeous flower on this thing. I'll splice in some photos here if I don't catch one blooming today. But it likes these well-drained sites here and does well in these early successional forelands, if you will, because they're not really grasslands. Here's an important but scorned component of these grasslands, and that is common ragweed. So this is an excellent forage for many of our native mammals, things like white-tailed deer and rabbits. It is an incredibly nutritious browse, and so cattle love it as well, even though it makes a lot of people sneeze and gives them hay fever. Also, anyone who blames their allergies on goldenrod, you actually should be blaming, well, 1, grasses, and 2, the common ragweed, because goldenrod does not have wind-blown pollen. That's why it has the big showy yellow flowers. It's because it wants insects to move the pollen around. It's not throwing that pollen into the air. But I digress. So here's another one of these plants found on these sandy sea island forelands and grasslands, and that is rabbit tobacco, Pseudonaphthalum obtusifolium. That one is a mouthful. And this one, if you crush up the leaves and smell it, I like to say, it smells like downwind of a Denny's. It smells like maple syrup, black pepper, and cigarette ash. But it's more pleasant than I'm making it sound. But this is the host plant for our American lady butterfly. They're not, laying eggs this time of year, so I can't show you any caterpillars, but they come up here and they form a little tent where they tie all of these ends together in a webby mess. And I'll splice a photo of them up right here, but they're ivory black and red striped with spines. Just look at that foxglove. It is gorgeous. And looks like that passion flower doesn't have a fruit either. Here we have cloudless sulfur butterflies, and their host plant is actually this stuff over here, which is having an even better year, I dare to say, than the Agellinus. Look at that. So this stuff is partridge pea, Chamichrista vesiculata. And so this is an excellent wildlife plant. It is a fantastic browse for deer. It's a fantastic browse for rabbits and other small mammals. It produces tons and tons and tons of these seeds that are highly nutritious because this is a legume and it's a nitrogen fixer. It has very high protein content in both its foliage and in its leaves. And this is a favored browse by bobwhite quail as well as, the European pheasants. So this is a wonderful wildlife plant because it also provides structure. You see this? I'm 6 foot tall, and this thing is right here at about 4.5 foot off the ground. But underneath all of this, we have our own little microcosm. We have this sort of miniature forest underneath all of this partridge pea that rabbits and mice and quail can run around and live in, safe from aerial predators like hawks. And so I'm really excited to see how well this stuff is doing. I was thinking that this might be a Midwestern ecotype that was brought into the site in a food plot mix, but it is so abundant out here and all of it is doing so good everywhere on the property. I think that's just indication of how fertile these young ice age soils here are, because the soils here, these were formed during the last glacial maximum. So these soils here are less than 40,000 years old, and they are incredibly fertile for the southeast. Fairly balanced pH. It's in the 6s, which is good for here. Very high phosphorus levels, decent potassium, not great, but decent. Nitrogen's low, sulfur's all right. if you get down deep into the subsoil. But really wonderful soils, and it looks like the plants are loving it too, and all you have to do is just manage them. And so since I have had control over the management of this property since 2018, I have not mowed any of this. I just come in once every 2 years or so. Actually, I just came in here 2 years ago in 2022. It's now near the end of 2024, and I need to control all these trees again. I just come through and I cut out all the pine trees and just spray the stump with triclopyr. And I do the same thing for, all the pecans as well, because pecans, which are not native to South Carolina, they're native to the Mississippi River Valley, but they're brought here. They're hickory. A lot of our native species will use them plenty fine. They're not really invasive, but they do incredibly well on this site. And so they get out everywhere, from the squirrels and the rats hauling them around, and they come up out here in the meadows. So I've got to control them just to keep these meadows intact, because a lot of folks measure how quickly succession happens on a lot of sites in the US in years or decades. We here on the Sea Islands measure it in months. Like I said, this has been, I think, about 30 months since I last came here and treated this, and we have 15-foot pine trees in here. You should see the field over there. I mean, I've got 20-foot tall sweet gums, and it's not even been 3 years. So here's an interesting one that people usually don't like. This is a species of bidens. I believe this common name is Spanish needles. This is Bidens bipinnata. And so this is a very good deer browse as well, because the deer have just been hammering it. It's also a pretty good pollinator plant, because it's got these little asteroid flowers down here. But right now, it's got a lot of competition for pollination, so they're not getting a whole lot of action, because, I mean, just look at the horsemint, the partridge pea, and all this agalinus. I mean, why would you go after that when you got all of this going on? Just look at all this partridge pea. It is just a-going. And so, when you have compacted soils like this old roadbed has, you get this Baha'i grass that comes in and takes over everything. I hate that stuff. Makes good hay for cows, but that's all it's good for. It just happens to be that that's it's something that grows with almost no care. All you got to do is just throw some lime and fertilizer on it, and the stuff will be this tall and thicker than otter hair. So it's used a lot for pasture land and hay grass, and it just gets everywhere. It sticks to boots, sticks to truck tires, sticks to mud flaps, and it gets up all over the place. But thankfully, like I said, the agalinus is able to just grab onto it and suck the life out of it. And so I don't have to deal with it all too much out here in the meadow, but that is making up a large component of the understory of this meadow, which is not great, but I'm tolerating it for the time being. There's not really much I can do other than nuking this stuff with herbicide, and with the current condition, that's just not worth it. You can burn to help control this stuff, but because we've spent $1 million on the pile of wood that is the historic structure on this site, we're kind of not. The risk there of accidentally burning that structure down is a little too great. So we just use the bush hog and come in here and hack and squirt woody plants out of here. And it has, thankfully, that management plan has worked really well so far. And I'm hoping to potentially find some better herbicide and application methods to maybe control some of these woody plants a little bit better. I'm going to look into Pronom power pellets to help control the hardwoods, and then we'll just continue to hack and squirt on the pine trees because they don't regenerate all too well, even if you don't spray them. There's another invasive species I really dislike, tropical fingergrass, aka crabgrass. Really annoying. I hate it in an agricultural setting, and it doesn't seem to really be much of an issue out here in an actual natural environment, but you mess up the soil, that stuff comes up something fierce. So this end of the property has a lot more horsemint than other areas. Back end of the property is mostly goldenrod. We've got these few pockets of partridge pea in some of the higher south-facing areas. But this area is really dominated by split-beard broom sedge and horsemint. Just look at this stuff. Just look at this stuff. Oh, I love it. Anyway, starting to ramble. This video is getting a little long in the tooth, but I just wanted to show off my wildflower meadows here that I manage. This is what they took from you. This could be your inheritance. This could be your legacy, but no, instead you have turf grass and asphalt. This could be what's in your front yard every time you walk out the door, but they took it from you. Don't let them take it from you. Take it back. Anyway, if you like what I'm doing here, consider giving the video a like, comment, tell me what your favorite coastal plain foreland species is, and if you want to see more of my work here at the Wildflower Meadows of the Hutchinson House, you got to subscribe. So smash the gray button down there. Until next time. Tom out.